Alright, we're going to go over your slope review for the quiz that you have coming up. On your actual review document, you can click the titles of each section, and that will take you to the video of how to do each part. We're going to go over each section together of your review. First part is finding slope of a graph. So remember, you have to find two perfect points. I've been given points here, so we can just connect them up and then over, or you can go down and over. Either way, it doesn't matter. You can go either direction. You don't have to do both. And then we count. We need to make sure this is counting by ones, which it is. So we count our rise, which is 1, 2, 3, 4. My run is 1, 2, 3. Remember that the slope of a graph is rise over run. My rise was 4 and my run is 3. And it stays positive 4 over 3 because this line is increasing. Remember, if we have a slope that is horizontally, it's going to be a 0 slope. And if we have a vertical line, that's going to be an undefined slope. So this slope is 4 over 3. Now we have this graph. This graph is going to be negative because my line is decreasing. It's going down. So I need to first find my perfect points. Remember, perfect points are where it goes through the corners of the grid boxes, but it has to fall on your line. So we can have this as a perfect point, 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 and this has a perfect point. You can use any of these boxes to determine, or any of those points to determine the slope of the actual line. So let's say I want to use these ones. And again, this is counting by ones. We have 1, 2, 3, 4. We have 1, 2. Remember, slope is rise over run. My rise was 4, my run was 2, and 4 over 2 is 2. But remember, my slope is negative, so you have to put your negative sign in front of the value. Next, we have slope of tables. I showed you guys two different ways to do this. You can either use this with the formula y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, or you can find the rule on each side. I'm going to do one with the formula and one with the rule on the sides. So as I go from 2 to negative 2, that's subtracting 4. If you can't figure that out mentally, you can have 2, 1, 0, negative 1, negative 2. Negative 2 to negative 6 is subtracting 4. Negative 6 to negative 10 is subtracting 4. 9 to 3 is subtracting 6. 6 to negative 3 is 3 to negative 3 is subtracting 6, and negative 3 to negative 9 is subtracting 6. And remember, slope is the change in y over the change in x. My change in y was negative 4, and my change in x was negative 6. We can simplify that by negative 2, because they're both negative, and a negative divided by a negative is positive, and that'll simplify to positive 2 over 3. This next one we will do by the formula, which is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Remember, our x's are on the top and our y's are on the bottom. How I explained it before is this means what is my second y. So my first y, my second y is 6. My first y is 9 over my second y is 3, or my second x, sorry, is 3, and my first x is 2. 6 minus 9 is negative 3, and 3 minus 2 is 1, which simplifies to be negative 3. The next thing we need to do is the slope of ordered pairs. And again, you can do this by the formula y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, or I'll show you how you can kind of do the table version of it. Again, I'm going to do one of each. So first we're going to do assign x1, y1, x2, y2. My formula is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. My y2 is negative 6 minus my y1 is 4 over my x2 is negative 5 minus my x1 is 3. Negative 6 minus 4 is negative 9 over negative 5 minus 3 is negative 8. Just checking myself real quick. Yep. I mean, that's negative 10, I'm sorry. And then we can simplify to 5 over 4. And my slope is 5 over 4. If you wanted to make the table, you could put your coordinates or your ordered pairs into the table. And your first ordered pair is negative 3, 0. And you have 4, negative 1. The rule as you go from 0 to negative 1, that's minus 1. And negative 3 to 4. Is negative 3, negative 2, negative 1, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's negative, or that's adding 7. And remember, slope is the change in y over the change in x, which will be 7 over negative 1, which gives me negative 7. And the last thing we need to be able to do for our quiz is finding the slope of an equation. And remember that we need to make sure the equation is in slope-intercept form first before we can determine the slope of the equation. My first example is in slope-intercept form, because remember, slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b. So since this is in y equals mx plus b form, we can say that my slope is 6. Example 2, this is also in y equals mx plus b form. Now this does not have to be a plus sign in order for this to be in slope-intercept form. This can be a subtraction sign. And again, this is in slope-intercept form, so I can say my slope is negative 4. The last two are not in slope-intercept form, so we need to rearrange and solve for y in order to find our slope. So since this is subtracting 3x, we have to add 3x to both sides. And that'll leave me with negative 4y equals 3x plus 12. Remember, we can't combine these because this has an x and this doesn't. So we put the 3x first so it mirrors y equals mx plus b. We divide both sides by negative 4. Divide every individual part by negative 4, and we have y equals negative 3 over 4x. 12 divided by negative 4 is negative 3. So my slope is negative 3 over 4. Last example. Again, this is not in slope-intercept form. This is in standard form, so we need to solve for y to make it look like slope-intercept form. So the first thing we're going to do is subtract 6x, since that's a positive 6x on both sides. And that leaves me with 3y equals negative 6x plus 24. Again, we put the negative 6x first because we want it to mirror this. And we put plus 24 because this is a positive 24. We cannot combine these because this has an x and this does not. Last thing we want to do is, since this is multiplying, we divide everything by 3. And I have y equals negative 6 divided by 3 is negative 2x plus 24 divided by 3 is positive 8. And my slope is negative 2. And that is everything that you need to know in order to be prepared for your slope quiz.